My name is Teosha Charles, and you are listening to Animation Station. I'm here with my wonderful co-host, Joseph.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show.
Yes, welcome. Sorry we have not been talking to you guys for a while. Just things have been a little bit busy, but we are back in action. We just can't wait to tell you guys what we've been watching.
Yes, and today we have a really great episode talking about some subject matter and content that we've been wanting to discuss for a long time, but it was took us a while to get some of our research together and pretty much narrow down what the talking points we wanted because there was so much to talk about, but we had kind of had to trim it down a little bit so we can fit it into a 1 hour episode.
That's right, and I just can't wait to tell you guys what it is.
Yeah. So today, one of the things that we're talking about is live action and animation, and one of those examples being Who Framed Roger Rabbit, which was a really big movie back in the 80s in 88, and then also we're going to go into Cool World and finish off with Space Jam, talking about the new reboot that's going to be happening with LeBron James.
That's going to be interesting.
hmm
But yeah, Who Framed Roger Rabbit? Oh my gosh, it's been years since I've seen that.
Actually, I think it's on Netflix now. I remember seeing it. I don't know. I know I watched it not too long ago, maybe like 2 years ago. I was thinking about it was on my mind, and yeah, I watched it and seen a lot of people like dress up in cosplay as Roger Rabbit, as well as the Bombshell, his wife.
It's Jessica Rabbit, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, with her sparkly red dress and her ridiculously large lips and other
Tiny
hourglass figure.
waistline.
Yes, her
Yeah.
hourglass figure, which was pretty much like I don't know why, but it was like everyone's fantasy that I knew growing up. Like that was the iconic figure.
Right. In your dreams.
Yeah.
But sorry. The number one thing that I know about this movie is that did you know that they asked Eddie Murphy to actually play in this movie?
No, I didn't know about that.
Yeah, they asked Eddie Murphy, he declined. And when people talk about it, he said that was the worst mistake he ever made because he didn't think that this movie was actually going to make a big hit.
Well, I mean, it was one of the first of its kind that, well, I wouldn't say the first of its kind. I mean, of course, there was Mary Poppins, which implemented uh, animation and live action. But with
Right.
Roger Rabbit on this scale, like it being through the full movie, was such a huge undertaking for them that on paper it probably seemed like a crazy idea, like just ridiculous. Like I can
Right.
only imagine the pitch and the look on some of these people's faces when they heard it. They're like, how is this even gonna happen? Like, how is this gonna work? But taking some of the methods that they had from Mary Poppins, they were able to just produce this on a large scale. But
I mean,
what
it's
was he?
cartoons. Like,
Yeah,
come on.
but what was he gonna be, Eddie Murphy? Like was he gonna be Roger Rabbit? Like, what character
Oh no,
were they pitching for him?
he was gonna be the detective.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he
Okay,
was gonna be the main character.
Yeah, Eddie Valiant. Yes.
He was gonna be the main character,
Mm.
and he said it was the worst mistake he'd ever made. He should have never said no.
But it's kind of weird though because like what he would have played because Eddie Murphy, like he's in that time in the 80s, he was the comedian actor. I mean, you have Beverly Hills Cop where he was a cop and a detective, but he was just, like always the comedic relief. Like he was the funny guy, and everyone else was always like really serious around him. But you look at the actor who played Eddie Valiant, that he was like very very serious, and Roger Rabbit was the comedic relief. So
Right.
like would they just been butting heads, or Eddie Murphy trying to be that serious actor, with no sense of humor whatsoever? It would have been kind of weird for him. And I mean, at that time, I don't think it would have really been a good fit because that's to me that was what made the movie so good because you have this really serious guy with no sense of humor, and then you have Roger Rabbit who's a cartoon.
Exactly. But I would love to see it though. If I would love to see if what would have happened if Eddie Murphy was playing as him. I would love
Mm,
to see that. It's interesting.
yeah. But I mean, this was one of the biggest things from my childhood, this movie. But talking, kind of diving into some of the technical aspects that went into this film, was really interesting to see because there was a, I watched a documentary about it, for the show, but the funniest thing was just how many times they had to film and go through the process. You look at it today, like for most people, something similar to it today is green screen and the whole tennis ball on a stick, giving the actors something to look at, because back then they had to do it twice. They had to first roll through with the actors with like these props or dummies or puppets, similar in a way like on Sesame Street, and they would act and they would have something to look at, and then the actors would roll through their lines, and then they would go through the process again, but without the characters, because they didn't have green screen. Like nowadays, they would just put, they would have the green puppet in like a green bodysuit or something, and then they could take it out, and it would be easy, just one take, and that would be easy. But
Right.
then they're like, no, we didn't really have that yet, and so they would have to do it without the props and the puppets, and the actors would have to like pretty much mime it or just pretend and try to focus and look at where their eyes were the first time, because that was the whole purpose of them having the props in the first run, so that way they can kind of get that muscle memory or get kind of feel of what it's like when the puppet was there. And then finally it was done with the characters and the animations, and then the animators kind of putting everything together with what the final thing that you saw.
Wow. That's a lot.
Yeah, yeah, and not only that, but you look at the cameras and how, in a regular film the camera's moving, goes along a rail, or you're turning, going, following the character, following the actor, and going in this multi-dimensional angle. And the usually with cartoons in the 80s, it was always, you know, I don't want to say two-dimensional, but like the animator, the animation like never really moved that much. Like the cartoon, like you wouldn't see them, like occasionally you would see them like do like a 360 or like a spin, but
Right.
most cases, you usually saw them from the front or from the side, and they would just have a run where you could just recycle the run animation or whatever movement they were doing. But with this, like they had to, you had to come at them and you had to get them from different frames, different angles, and really capture the three dimensions of the character, or the cartoon, I should say. So, I mean, I could just this endeavor was just ridiculous.
Wow. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah, I know. But let's talk a little bit about the movie itself. We kind of dived in a little bit to what the technical aspect of it was, because really I can just see the actors just really trying. Because like occasionally, like when I watched the movie, and like after I watched the movie, like after I saw the documentary, or at least I was watching clips of it, because everything's on YouTube. You can find whatever you want now from old
Right.
movies and stuff. And looking at them, you can kind of see it where the actors look past the cartoon, because there's nothing there when they were acting. So
Right.
sometimes you can, if you know what you're looking for, you can kind of see it where like the actor kind of messes up a little bit, or if they're not looking directly at the animated character, especially with Roger Rabbit. But it was kind of neat with some of the techniques they use, because like Roger Rabbit, like how he interacts with the environment, like he's hitting stuff, knocking over trash cans,
Right.
and so like the way they did it was all mechanical. They would have like these mechanical props, similar to like what stunt people use to kind of give the fake illusion that that Roger Rabbit was interacting with something, or how Jessica Rabbit like was messing with Eddie Valiant, like when she was singing her song and all that.
Or like when they had like one of the bad guys, which is I think is the ferrets or weasels having the guns.
I think they're weasels. Yeah, yeah, because they're holding real guns.
Right.
Which is hilarious. And they showed how they did it. They were like on a string, I think, to kind of like hold them still or whatever. Like I'm not entirely sure how they did that, but yeah, they were like holding guns, real guns, which is kind of makes them even more dangerous. Because really the first time I watched the movie, I never caught that. I never caught that they were holding like real guns.
Right. I was too busy looking at just the regular cartoon. I didn't actually think that
Mm-hmm.
it was real or anything like that.
Mm. But overall, like, what was like the your thoughts about the movie as a whole?
I freaking loved it. And my favorite, like the favorite parts was when he had to go inside the cartoon world.
Mm-hmm. Because
And
I
it,
mean, yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
oh no, I was just saying that when he went into the cartoon world, you can see literally a lot of the cartoons that either we watched or like just main old cartoons that people just made up or stuff like that. Like for example, what we saw was Mickey Mouse and Donald, and I was like,
Mm-hmm.
oh my god, it was good. I loved it.
Yeah, because a good portion of them are made up, like they're fake characters. But
Right.
yeah, you still see some of the iconic ones when he goes into them, and you see, which was probably just a screen, really, just him in front of a screen.
Right.
But what I really liked was them at the end when they all come into the scene, and it shows them like all like you have all the Warner Brother characters, and they're all talking. You had Pinocchio and a couple others where they were talking like, "Oh, he was no rabbit. Yeah, he was no real boy." Like the villain of it, which was actually really creeped me. Like I think about it today, and that actually really freaked me out.
Like
Like
his
when I first,
eyes bugging out. I was like,
yeah,
oh.
because it was him. That was the only thing that was a cartoon. Like everything about him was real, except for the eyes. The eyes were cartoon and were animated. So that was like the freakiest thing because like his eyes pop out and he was like a doll. So it was just like kind of messed up.
The worst part, well, I wouldn't say worst part, but like the part where they don't they're like, oh, cartoons can't die. There's only one thing that can
Mhm.
actually kill a tune. It's
Mhm.
something called dip. They call it a dip.
Mhm. Yeah, which
And
was like some chemical compound of some sort.
yeah, yeah. I was like, oh my god, no. Because like Jessica was like, oh no, it's
Mhm.
dip. I was like,
Yeah,
what?
which is kind of funny because this is something that was never really covered in the movie, and they never really explained it. But so was this like another dimension? Are these cartoons actually created somehow? Like there was so many questions looking back on it now, where it's like, so are cartoons from another dimension, and that everything we see is them just being like regular actors, just like people. Like they're not actually created, they're from somewhere else. So we watch, so it kind of gives us this different aspect of what a cartoon is, because like we know like cartoons or what we make them, they're
Right,
man-made, but in this it's like no, they're just like regular people, or they're actors just like people, and they perform and we just record them in this cartoon world thing, and there's this other dimension where they come from. So it's kind of like a weird aspect when you think of it. And so it's just like, how are they created, and what exactly is happening? Because
right,
that's what's kind of funny. It's like, oh, you can't kill them, because the thing with cartoons, like they're immortal, they don't change. And it's like, oh, so it's like, what are they exactly? So it was just something that kind of can really hurt your head if you think about too much.
like for example, you can hit them with a bat or like a brick, and it's like they have like these little birds or stars around their head, and it's like it's nothing, and it's
Hmm.
like how the heck.
Yeah, and that's the funniest thing, because in the very first scene where Roger Rabbit gets the refrigerator dropped on his head, he sees birds, not stars. And they're able to actually hit them. They're actually able to hit the birds, and the little bird like walks off. And it's like,
Right,
well, how are these things created? And not only can they get hit with like cartoon stuff, they can also get hit with stuff from our world as well.
right.
And
Oh,
like
but
that
but
actually reacts.
that baby, dude, that baby in the beginning, because Roger messed up,
Hmm.
and instead of
It's
stars, instead of stars, he put birds. I swear, when I heard that baby's voice and him smoking on a cigar,
yeah,
I
yeah,
was
because That's the thing. He plays like a baby, so he acts like a baby, but he's really like some 40-year-old man smoking cigars.
Right. And then you see, and then you can tell it's from back in the day because he like freaking smacked the girl's butt and say, "Hey, Toots, give me another,
Yeah,
give
I
me
guess
another
what
milk or whatever."
yeah, which I guess is like his girlfriend or something.
I guess. That movie was awesome though. I need to watch
Yeah.
that again.
Yeah. I mean, it was really great and it really gave birth to something that we want to talk about. But, we kind of mentioned it briefly, like they don't explain how this stuff is made in this world of the world of Roger Rabbit. They don't really explain who they are, where they come from. But and the other one that we're going to talk about is a Cool World, which was kind of something that's done a little low under the radar. It was in '92, but I remember this one, and you can kind of compare the two bombshells in this film with Jessica Rabbit and Hollywood, which are just like, which to me was the Marilyn Monroe really of it. But in this film, Cool World, which is very similar live action with animation, it explains how this world is created, even though it's kind of like another dimension. But these characters are created from us. So in this
Right.
film, you have these two actors. You have Brad Pitt and the other actor. I was trying to think of his name. I'm blanking right now. Ah,
Uh, it's
oh,
Gribble something, right?
yeah, Gabriel
Gabriel. Okay.
Byrne. Yeah, I had to look it up really quick, but yeah, Jack Deeves, that's his character name. And then you have Brad Pitt, who plays a character named Frank Harris. The two of them, they're like the only humans in this in the film.
Right.
They're like the only people who play live action. And so both of them get sucked into this world, but somehow they're like sucked in like through art or whatever. It's kind of weird. And through this whole entire time, so it was a little different from Roger Rabbit because a lot of it is live action, most of it is cartoon. But the two of them are in this world, but it was created by Jack Deeb's character. Like he's like a comic book artist.
Right. But you
Like,
know what though? Brad, other words, who plays the detective, was
mhm,
actually sucked in way before Jack. He
exactly.
he got sucked in like in 1932.
Hmm.
So it was like, wow, his whole world is gone. So that's
Hmm.
why I think he actually knows there's a way out, but he's
Yeah.
not telling any of them because of course they're tunes or they don't
Yeah.
belong in the real world.
No, no. Well, that's the thing though, because Jack he actually goes back and forth. Like he doesn't stay in the whole time. Brad Pitt is the only one who actually does. Because I'm not entirely sure. It's been a while since I've seen the movie, but I think he like actually like kind of dies. I don't know if either he dies or something happens to him in the beginning of the film. He's riding on a motorcycle with his mom, and something happens to him. They never actually show it or
Hmm.
explain it. So like I was always presumed that like he dies or he's about to die and then he's transported like at the last second.
Right.
But Jack Deeb's character, who's the comic book artist, kind of like the Stan Lee of the world, he's always going back and forth, and somehow he's sucked in from Hollywood, who's like his main bombshell uh, pinup girl that he draws. So a lot of when he first gets sent into the world, he recognizes like all his characters, and so it's like his world that he's created, which is kind of interesting. So it explains that some artists have a potential ability to create worlds or bring their characters to life. Because he
Right.
even says when he first sees Hollywood that he could erase her if he really wanted to. So that's always kind of an interesting aspect. And again, trying to deal with like all these different dimensions and, you know, worlds that are created somehow by us, which is kind of an interesting aspect when you stop and think about it.
Right.
But do you remember that movie? Like, when was the last time you think you watched it?
Oh my gosh. Actually, I watched it like three times. One with my dad, which apparently the movie's PG-13,
Hmm.
but of course I couldn't watch certain parts.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
um,
it's
yeah.
very. I wouldn't say it's. I guess crude is somewhat of a word
It
that
don't
I
look
would
like
use.
PG-13. I'll tell you that. It does not.
Well, I mean, not really much. I mean, well, because she's a cartoon, so she's got similar proportions to that of Jessica Rabbit and
Mm.
a Hollywood character, and she's always wearing like this like bodysuit,
There is
and
one part in that movie that is not PG-13.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, but like you don't really know what's going on though. Like I mean, as an adult, you know what's going on, but like as a teenager, like I was like, you kind of don't really know what it is. But yeah, 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 I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Because
But
it's kind of interesting. Because in this film, uh, I guess you can say the protagonist or antagonist, sorry, would be Hollywood, and her whole aspect of what she wants is that she wants to get out.
yeah, she wants to go
Like,
to the real world.
yeah, she wants to go to the real world because she's heard so much about it, and like it's just something that she wants to do, wants to be. So she's willing to do anything that she can. And then the whole movie takes place outside of the cool world, the real world, and she actually becomes real. And so the actress who plays her, uh, Kim Basinger, I think that's her name. Like, she actually looks like Hollywood. Like, you know, she she looks like a Baywatch actress.
Right.
And so, she plays both cartoon and her real self because she becomes real.
Right.
And that's which is like her goal. Her goal is to become real, which is kind of like a dumb thing because when you're real, you grow old and you die.
Right. But she
But it
doesn't
was,
know that.
yeah, she doesn't know that, and that's something that she wants to become. And then eventually she messes up, and then somehow the worlds start to merge, the cool world and the real world. You see it starting to merge, combine together. And Brad Pitt, like his whole thing is like he has to like prevent it from happening, and that's pretty much everything goes back to normal.
Right.
But the cool part of it, I think, is the real interesting ending how Brad Pitt actually becomes a cartoon himself,
Yes.
which
To
is,
be with God, I forgot her name. To be with the other cartoon girl.
yeah, like his love interest.
Yeah.
But the way the films was created was very similar to that of Roger Rabbit, where it was a very similar techniques, where it was a combination of real and live action, and the actors had to sort of use props a little bit. I mean, this was a few years later, so they kind of had some other techniques that they had from before
Right.
to kind of like improve upon, so they kind of like lessons learned. But still, it was to the same scale as that of Roger Rabbit. And it was probably the first film that I ever saw with Brad Pitt. Like
Really?
that's how I got to know him.
Oh, okay.
And then I didn't see him again until like Fight Club. Or like the next movie I watched of him was Fight Club.
Right. But yeah, this movie was something to me. Like
Hmm.
I got the concept. Okay, she wants to go to the real world because Brad Pitt, the detective kept talking about it and stuff like that, and she like begs him, try to seduce him, so
Hmm.
many times, and then try to seduce Jack, to let her let her go with him to the real world.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. She actually tries to seduce him at first, and he like turns her down because what's really weird is that because he, I guess Brad Pitt's character knows exactly what happens when like some of the cartoon characters like intermix, and that's how she actually becomes real.
Right.
But then eventually she ends up a cartoon again.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the part that's not PG-13.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But yeah, this movie was actually pretty good. It was pretty good.
Hmm.
It kind of
Yeah.
reminds me of it kind of reminds me of the 2001 movie. You ever heard of Monkey Bone?
Mm-mm.
Oh my god. It's kind of like the same thing, except it's a little bit more I would say a little bit more weird in a way.
Hmm.
Just a little bit more weird. Um, it's amazing how it's also another PG-13 movie, but it does not look like it when you first look at it. It's like,
Mm.
oh, okay. But anyway, but yeah, this movie is awesome. I actually like it.
Mm. Yeah, pretty much. I mean, this was like one of the first films that I remember that really got me into drawing in the first place and learning about comic books and really just the fascinations of cartoon anime. Because I remember Roger Rabbit, but it was mostly just like a comedy. But with this, it was like more of a grungier type of Roger Rabbit, where the characters were smoking and drinking and like far more expressive. And also they had in the cool world there was like monsters and it was definitely more of an adult animations
Mm,
compared to that of Roger Rabbit as far
right.
as like the way the characters were designed.
Yeah.
But cuz like in the film Brad Pitt he plays a detective and his partner is like a giant cartoon spider.
Right.
And it's just funny because like he has his two legs but then he has six arms and
I know that's funny.
he's just constantly doing stuff with like both all of his arms. And there's this one scene where he's just like spinning the gun around and he's trying to like be fancy and like spin it across like all of his arms, but it eventually ends up getting himself tangled because he's got so many arms.
Wow.
And he himself is smoking a stogie. Like the stogie never goes out, and it always stays the same, which is similar to like the baby and Roger Rabbit.
Is that what it's called? A stogie?
A cigar, whatever.
Oh, okay. I was
Uh,
saying, what's a stogie?
a cigar. It's
Oh,
like another nickname for it.
okay.
But it was on my mind. I'm sorry, I'm bringing something up. But Kim Basinger, like, I know we talk about it a little bit, but she was also in the first Batman,
Oh,
the
yeah, she
Tim Burton
was.
one. Yeah.
I
So
didn't
that's
even notice.
yeah. I mean, you kind of can't really recognize her a little bit, and it was a while ago, but yeah, she was in Batman, and that was like the first time I saw her. So
All right, cool, cool.
yeah, and plus a bunch of other movies that she's been in as well. But yeah,
Number one fan over here.
no. But no, as we're talking, I'm like kind of like going through my notes and trying to see like what else we can talk about. But yeah, I mean, I just think about those kinds of movies, and really, there's not a whole lot of them that are being really made anymore. I mean, obviously, we mentioned Mary Poppins, which was like one of the first ones that they ever really made, and again with the reboot, they brought it back with the
Right.
or when she returns, Mary Poppins returns, they still had that cartoon and live animation, but then it's mostly. I mean, I'm not entirely how they did it, but I'm pretty sure they didn't do it the exact same way. Because
Right.
that would have been way too much work, and they found far more simpler ways to do it. It's probably
Nothing.
mostly green screen, probably,
Yeah, but nothing beats a classic.
mm. or the hard and difficult methods. Because I think the harder something was, the more you appreciate it, but also the more respect you give to those people. It's like wow, like they really were passionate about this project because they didn't like because they could have done something else, but they're like, no, we're taking this on. It's going to be a huge undertaking. No one's done it before.
Right.
So we're going to give it everything we got.
I don't know how many times people try to sing that song super fast. Super expialidocious.
Yeah. And then also Pete's Dragon as well, which was another similar live action uh, cartoon. But, that one, I don't know. It was only like one thing, really. It wasn't nowhere near as much as it was only like just the dragon.
Right.
Nothing to like what we're talking about here with these movies. But we're gonna kind of move on a little bit from Cool World because I think we kind of talked that one out about a bit. But we're gonna talk about something because I just mentioned it how they're not really doing this anymore, but they kind of are now because we're talking about our third movie and now they're rebooting Space Jam
Woo!
from '96 with LeBron James. And I'm not
Yes.
entirely sure. I haven't heard the entire news about it yet, but I wasn't sure if it's actually because I don't know. They're calling it Space Jam 2, so maybe they're continuing it, or if in fact they're actually rebooting it and retelling the story. So I haven't been able to research it yet, and I don't know entirely what the storyline is going to be. But
Right.
I don't know. What do you think about this?
So far, I'm ready for it, and I don't know. Maybe they will start over, but I don't know because at the end of oh well, you think it's okay if I mention the end of the movie? I mean, it's
I
pretty
mean, I
late.
mean, I mean, yeah. I mean, seriously. But I mean, for anyone who doesn't know, I mean, it was '96, so it was like over 20 something years ago. I mean, the movie can drink already. The movie is getting drunk and having hangovers now. I mean, that's how old the movie is.
Right. But
But
at the end of the movie, after they defeated, the big alien guy, I forgot his
mhm,
name, they basically shot him into space.
yeah,
So we technically don't know if he comes back and like literally starts this whole thing over again, but with a different plan. So who knows? Who
yeah,
really
yeah, maybe.
knows?
I mean, who knows? So let's talk about Space Jam just a little bit and go over the plot slightly. So with that, this was, with Bugs Bunny and Michael Jordan,
Right.
because he was a big hit in the 90s with multiple championships. And in this story, it pretty much talks about how Michael Jordan, he's sort of retired from basketball. He's doing baseball, that whole baseball league thing that he was doing. So it was kind of funny because, like, even though he made this movie, it was still kind of he was playing himself, really.
Mm-hmm.
And I assume LeBron James will probably be doing the same thing. Like because he's done a little bit of acting, so maybe he might have a little bit up on Michael Jordan than that because like he didn't really do any acting. He hasn't done any real acting before the movie when Michael Jordan did it. But LeBron, he's been in some movies and he's always like played himself. So he's always been LeBron James. So in this one, I'm not entirely sure what he's doing in his real life right now. I mean, I know he's still playing and
Doing commercials.
yeah, yeah. So in movies, but Michael, he's doing baseball. This was a time when he was playing baseball professionally, and then now again dealing with multiple dimensions, he gets sucked into like the Warner Brothers world
Right.
with Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck, all these characters that we know, and I guess somehow, some way, they live in this other dimension,
Right.
separate from our world, which is kind of weird considering they're cartoons and we know about them.
Right.
Uh, and then all of a sudden these aliens which are cartoons, I guess aliens are cartoons. Some aliens could be cartoons.
Right.
They
Right.
land, they invade the earth, and they're like super tiny, like 2 feet tall, probably even smaller, smaller than the cartoons. And
Right.
Bugs Bunny, all of them, they bully them into like, because they play them once at like basketball or something. I don't really entirely remember. But then
Right.
these aliens, they steal talent from professional basketball players, and then that's how they get, and then they take that energy, I guess. Well, they take their talent, which is, I don't understand, but I guess it's like their energy or whatever, and then they take that talent and they put it into themselves, these
Mm-hmm.
aliens, and then that's how they're able to be like these huge, giant, talented monsters, or monstars, uh Sylvester says. And they
Right.
need Michael Jordan to teach them to be good at basketball, or they need Michael Jordan to save the day, to beat them at a game of basketball.
Exactly.
And you know, and obviously they win, and then they chuck them back into space. But
And they give the skills back to the,
yeah, they give this, yeah, and then the the professionals that they steal it from, because they have and because they have some cameos in there too. The other professional basketball players that they steal from, Charles Barkley, they steal from, which is like which was like the other person who's like, I feel like he was probably mad at Michael Jordan, because Charles Barkley, like I mean, he was a big name, still, and
Yeah, but
some of
it's
the other,
Michael Jordan.
I know. And Bill Murray was in it too, which was also kind of cool. But Bill Murray was like his buddy, Michael Jordan's like sidekick. And but it's kind of hilarious because because like Charles Barkley, like he's still in the basketball world. Like he's a sports announcer. He's on. ESPN. Michael Jordan's kind of like doing whatever. Like he just has his Fruit Loom. Like he just has his underwear line, and then that's it. Like he hasn't done anything. Like he hasn't done hardly anything.
Right.
He's not in the spotlight anymore, is what I'm saying. But
Right.
I can only imagine like Charles Barkley. Like he was like, I should be the star of this film instead of Michael Jordan. But or even like Dennis Rodman or Scottie Pippen. Like they were probably like, hey, But
Wow.
yeah, but Michael Jordan, he was like 96. So he was like the like biggest name like at the time. So it only made sense. And then, but now with the whole remake of Space Jam, like I'm just curious if what they're planning to do with it. If in fact they're continuing the storyline, or if in fact they're kind of like starting over from scratch,
Who
which is
knows?
happening. I don't know. It's happening a lot lately with franchises where they're just starting over.
It would be cool though if like if something does happen, like with the big boss alien guy comes back and they do this
Hmm.
again, but they try to get in contact with Jordan through the. Remember, they came to the real world to talk to the kids, talk
Hmm.
to his kids, or they could talk to him through the TV like they did before. Remember that the kids were in the kitchen eating and they were watching cartoons and they were like, "Hey, we have a meeting. Let's go." And they all freaking just left.
Hmm.
Like this left the state, like left the TV show. So who knows? They probably talked to Jordan and Jordan's like, "I can't. I'm retired, but I have someone that could help you." And maybe that's when they get LeBron James. I don't know. That would be awesome though.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. But also, speaking about, we talked about them a little bit, but also this was introducing of a new character. Was what was her name? Babs Bunny, I think her name was.
Oh no, it's called Lola Bunny. That
Lola
was
Bunny.
my
Yeah,
favorite character. That
yeah,
and Bugs.
yeah. But like she was introduced in this film, right? Because I don't remember her
Oh, she
before
was.
this.
She was.
Was
hmm
okay.
She
I
was
don't know.
there when they were practicing,
Yeah.
and that's when Bugs started like falling in love and stuff. It was so cute.
But well, it was really interesting because like with things going on in the world today, it was like a really big deal because at first they weren't going to let her play. I'm like, oh, you're a girl, and then it turns out she's like better than all of them.
Yep. And
So
then
that was
Jordan was like, "She's in."
yeah. But I was just curious if in fact before if the film was like her debut or if she was on Looney Tunes or any of the other cartoons
Actually, I don't know.
before the movie. I don't know. What was her name again?
Lola Bunny.
Lola
Lola.
Bunny.
Yeah.
Mm, I don't know. Maybe, possibly. I don't know.
But either way, it was great.
I don't know because it would be kind of neat to see uh, who they get, and then
Right.
and if in fact if they're gonna get some of the original voice actors from the Looney Tunes, because I'm pretty sure some of them are still alive.
Well,
And
not Granny.
yeah, that's true.
Sadly, not Granny.
Hmm.
And she was in the first one, so
Hmm.
we don't know just yet.
Yeah,
Yeah. But
because
yeah.
no, because like Lola, she's been pretty popular, and I think with like the news of the reboot, I'm seeing a lot of people wearing like I saw them at Comic Con just this past weekend, like people cosplaying as Lola. Like I mean, the whole Space Jam jersey and like just the ears, and then that's it. But
Oh no, she's popular. It's just
yeah,
like
yeah.
I
I'm,
wonder what she looked like way before Space Jam and stuff like that.
mhm.
Like was she different? Like was like did she have like a different like storyline or does she even have a storyline? Because so far they just compared her with Bugs and that's his girlfriend. That's it.
Yeah, she's just the opposite.
Right.
Hmm. I
But
don't
man,
know.
I can't wait if they make this Space Jam 2, I'm gonna man, I'm gonna enjoy
Mhm.
that.
Yeah. So yeah, they didn't create. I'm sorry, but I was looking it up, and then yeah, her debut was Space Jam.
Wow. Okay. All
Like
right.
that's when she like first appeared. So she was created specifically for the movie, and then they just took off from there.
Nice. All
Yeah.
right.
So I guess they just like, hey, we needed somebody, for Bugs Bunny and, this type of character because they didn't really have. I mean, they didn't really have anybody who could play basketball. But now, I don't know. Maybe they might be a little better this time around because
Who
if it's a
knows?
story that's being continued, they would be like, oh, we always knew that they would come back, or we kind of enjoyed playing, so we just kept the league. We kept the Looney Tunes league where we play
Right.
here and there. So I don't know, because we'll see how they come back again. Because at first, like I don't know, because in the movie, like Michael Jordan, he gets sucked into their world through like the ninth hole on a golf course, like where the tee is at. Like that's where how they got him, and then he came into their world, and it's
Right.
just like weird. So like, is there portals everywhere? I don't know, but that's something that only in Cool World is something that they kind of explain it a little bit, but in these movies they don't even really explain like what it is, like their dimensions, different there's portals, or how are they created, are they created by us, or do they come to our world and interact with us. It's just there's a lot of like unanswered questions in all these films when it comes to the whole live action crossover.
Right. But you know what? I
Mm.
really hope they bring. I just looked it up, and Daffy Duck does have a girlfriend, and her name is Melissa Duck, and she's actually been here since 1950s.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, she's older than Lola.
Well, I mean, yeah, because Lola's 23.
Right.
Yeah.
So that'll be a man if they do that in the new movie.
Hmm.
Oh, I will fall in love. It's great.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what they do and what kind of storyline they create for these characters. Because
Who knows?
I don't know. I'm
Did you,
kind of excited because this has been like rumored for like a long time, and they always say like LeBron James is like. There's always a debate between you know teenagers or the millennial generation versus people who grew up in the 80s and also 90s kids like me. They're saying like, oh, Michael Jordan's like way better, like his stats were way better, he's got more championships and all this and that. But I don't know. I mean, I would say LeBron is like the new this generation's Michael Jordan for sure. I don't know. I'm pretty sure. I don't know. I don't know if anyone who's as big sports fan who listens, but we'll get in the comments like he's not Michael Jordan. You see a bunch of arguing.
right. But I so far I'm ready for the new movie. I really am. I cannot wait.
I'm really anxious to see. I mean, I'm not really curious so much about the storyline, but for me, it's what I want to see is just what it is that they want to do about it, and as far as the technical improvements that they're able to make, because it's been a long time
Oh my
since we've seen
gosh.
anything like this. I mean, obviously we had the new Mary Poppins,
Right.
but I mean that was kind of like a small scale. It was really cool what they were able to do, but it was only a small portion of the film. This obviously it's going to be much longer and much more involved. So
Oh,
I'm
most
anxious.
definitely.
I'm anxious to see what they can do.
This is gonna be awesome.
Mhm.
I can't wait.
All right,
Well,
everyone. Yeah, I think that's about it. I think that's a wrap for today.
guys, thank you so much for listening to our wonderful cartoon movies that we talked about. If you guys want to watch them, go ahead, have fun. Trust me, these movies are really, really good, really cool, and I hope you guys enjoy. This has been Tiasha Charles, and also my co-host,
Joseph.
and welcome to Animation Station. And goodbye, and have a wonderful night, morning, or evening.
Hmm. And thank you for listening to us, and can't wait for the next episode.
Yep, yep. Bye bye. Hey guys, it's Teosha Charles here from Animation Station. Just wanted to talk to you guys about our wonderful company, Elite 23 Global, which is a creative place for creative minds. We have a wonderful board of branches, which is fashion, media, and even gaming. We have a team of creative minds coming together to make projects we always wanted to start, like this one. Also, come check out our clothing store called Elite 23 Shopping to check out the hottest and even cutest styles. If you want something new, come to Elite 23 Shopping. See you guys later. Bye.